Barry and Sherry's home was once filled with the laughter of dreams and the whispers of shared futures. But now, 5 years into their marriage, the absence of children had cast a long shadow over their once vibrant relationship. What had started as an idyllic union slowly began to unravel, thread by thread, as the reality of their situation set in. Barry had always been a man of ambition, his career a testament to his drive and determination. Sherry, too, was no stranger to hard work, her role in a multinational company demanding both her time and energy. At first, they had taken comfort in their work, using it as a distraction from the unspoken fear that had begun to grow between them. But as the years passed, the distraction became a crutch, and the crutch a wedge that drove them further apart. Their once warm home had grown cold, the spaces between them filled with silence. Late nights at the office became the norm, and dinner together became a rare occasion. When they did share a meal, it was often in silence, the distance between them palpable. Barry's attention had drifted away from Sherry, his eyes more often fixed on the screen of his phone than on her. Sherry noticed, of course. She saw the way Barry's phone had become an extension of his hand, the way he would smile at messages he received, and the way he would guard the screen when she was nearby. It was subtle at first, but as time went on, Sherry couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that something was terribly wrong. It wasn't just the phone. There were other signs, too, the way Barry seemed more distant, more secretive, and the way his affection for her had waned. They had always been a passionate couple, but now their intimacy had become infrequent, almost mechanical. Sherry couldn't shake the feeling that Barry's heart was no longer in their marriage, and it broke her. Determined to save their relationship, Sherry suggested they go out for dinner one evening, hoping to rekindle some of the romance that had been lost. Barry agreed, and they decided on a restaurant that had once been their favorite, a place they had frequented during the early days of their marriage. On the night of the dinner, Sherry dressed carefully, choosing a pink dress that complemented Barry's blue shirt. When she emerged from the bedroom, Barry smiled at her, but it was a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. They drove to the restaurant in near silence, the tension between them thick. The restaurant was just as they remembered it, warm, inviting, and filled with a comforting hum of conversation. They were seated by a friendly bartender who, Sherry noticed, gave Barry a smile that was a bit too familiar for her liking. As they sat down, Sherry couldn't help but glance at the bartender, her suspicions growing. Barry seemed distracted throughout the meal, his mind clearly elsewhere. Sherry tried to engage him in conversation, but his responses were short, almost absent-minded. Her frustration grew, but she forced herself to smile, trying to hide the hurt she felt. It was after they had finished their meal, as they were getting ready to leave, that Sherry decided to confront the bartender. She waited until Barry went to the restroom, then approached the bar, her heart pounding in her chest. "Excuse me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I couldn't help but notice that you seem to recognize my husband. Does he come here often?" The bartender looked up, his friendly demeanor faltering slightly. Yeah, he's been in a few times." Sherry's heart sank. "How often?" The bartender hesitated, glancing around as if to make sure no one else was listening. "Look, ma'am, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but he's been here quite a bit, usually with a woman." Sherry felt a cold wave of fear wash over her. "Do you know who she is?" The bartender nodded slowly. "Yeah, I've seen her a few times. I think her name is Tyler. She's pretty, blonde, always dressed real nice." Sherry felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. She had suspected that something was wrong, but hearing it confirmed was like a punch to the gut. "Do you have any proof?" Sherry asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. The bartender hesitated again, then nodded. I have some photos. And her contact information. I can get them across to you, but it'll cost you. Drop your contact. Sherry didn't hesitate. She pulled out her wallet and handed over a wad of bills, not caring how much it was. The bartender took the money and tucked them away. Good luck, he said quietly, before turning back to his work. You will hear from me. Sherry quickly left the restaurant, her mind racing. Barry met her outside, oblivious to what had just transpired. He offered her a tired smile as they got into the car, but Sherry could barely look at him, her mind consumed with thoughts of Tyler and the betrayal she had just uncovered. Before they got home, she had received a mail from the bartender. Upon opening, she found several photographs of Tyler sitting at the bar, laughing, holding hands with different men. One of them was Barry. There was no mistaking the intimacy between them. The bartender had also included Tyler's contact information, a second message that came in shortly after the first. Sherry's hands shook as she looked through the photos, her heart breaking with each one. Barry had been having an affair, and she had been completely oblivious. The realization left her feeling numb, as if she were watching someone else's life fall apart, not her own. But Sherry was not the type to wallow in self-pity. She was a woman of action, and she was determined to confront Tyler and get to the bottom of this. The next day, while Barry was at work, Sherry called Tyler's number. "Hello." Tyler's voice was light, pleasant, completely unaware of the storm brewing on the other end of the line. "Is this Tyler?" Sherry asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil she felt inside. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Sherry, Barry's wife." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end, followed by a soft gasp. "Oh my God," Tyler whispered. "I didn't know." "You didn't know he was married?" Sherry interrupted, her anger rising. "Or you didn't care?" Tyler didn't respond, and Sherry could almost hear the guilt in her silence. "Look," Sherry said, her voice cold, "I don't care what you and Barry have been doing. But if you think you're going to come between us, you're dead wrong. I want to meet you. We need to talk." Tyler hesitated. "Okay," she finally agreed, her voice shaky. "When and where?" Sherry arranged for them to meet at a small cafe later that afternoon. When she arrived, Tyler was already there, sitting at a corner table, her expression a mixture of guilt and fear. Sherry took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come, and walked over to the table. "Tyler," Sherry greeted her, her voice calm, but with an edge that made Tyler flinch. "Sherry, I'm so sorry," Tyler began, her eyes wide with regret. "I didn't know he was married. He never told me." "Save it," Sherry cut her off, taking a seat across from her. "I'm not here to listen to your excuses. I want to know how long this has been going on." Tyler looked down, her hands wringing together in her lap. "About a year," she admitted quietly. "We met online, and it just kind of happened." Sherry felt her stomach churn at the thought of Barry carrying on an affair for so long, but she kept her composure. "So, you're telling me that you didn't know he was married for an entire year? That's hard to believe." Tyler looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "I swear, I didn't know at first. But when I found out, I didn't want to stop. I know it's wrong, but I fell for him. I didn't want to let him go." Sherry clenched her fists under the table, her nails digging into her palms. "You're going to help me," she said firmly. "You're going to help me set him up, Make him realize what he's risking." Tyler's eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" "We're going to make sure Barry knows exactly what he's done," Sherry replied, her voice cold and determined. "And you're going to help me do it." Tyler hesitated, but then she nodded, a look of resolve crossing her face. "Okay," she agreed. "I'll do whatever you need." Over the next few weeks, Sherry and Tyler devised a plan to expose Barry's betrayal. Sherry pretended to be oblivious, continuing her routine as if nothing had changed, all the while coordinating with Tyler behind the scenes. The plan was simple. Sherry would pretend to go on an international assignment, leaving Barry with a perfect opportunity to meet Tyler in South Africa. Tyler, in turn, would encourage Barry to make the trip, playing into his fantasy of being with her. Once they were in Johannesburg, Sherry would fly in and catch them in the act, forcing Barry to face the consequences of his actions. The hardest part for Sherry was to face the reality of a cheating beloved husband. This led to a disastrous getaway. Both parties are wounded now. How could this ever heal? The room was thick with tension, the silence between Barry and Sherry almost deafening. Sherry stood by the door, her hand on the handle, ready to leave behind the man she had loved for so many years. But just as she was about to turn the knob, she heard a sound that stopped her in her tracks. Barry's sobs, raw and desperate. "Please, Sherry, don't go," Barry choked out, collapsing to his knees in front of her. Tears streamed down his face as he clutched at the hem of her dress. "I'm so sorry. I know I've hurt you. I know I've been a fool. But please, give me one more chance. I can't lose you." Sherry's heart ached at the sight of her husband in such a state. She had never seen him like this before, completely broken, stripped of all his usual confidence and bravado. For a moment, her resolve wavered, but she forced herself to stay strong, to remember the pain he had caused her. "Barry, how could you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "How could you betray me like this? I trusted you. I thought we were in this together, that we could overcome anything. But you threw it all away." Barry shook his head vehemently, still clinging to her as if his life depended on it. "I know I did, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I was weak, I was stupid, but I never stopped loving you, Sherry. Not for a single second. Please, I'll do anything to make it right. Just don't leave me." Sherry looked down at him, seeing the genuine remorse in his eyes, the way his shoulders shook with the force of his sobs. This was the man she had fallen in love with, the man she had married with hopes and dreams for a future together. Could she really walk away from all of that? Could she really throw away everything they had built? "Barry," she began, her voice softer now, the anger slowly draining away. "Do you even understand what you've done? Do you know how much you've hurt me?" "I do," Barry replied, his voice hoarse. "I know I've destroyed the trust we had. I've broken your heart, and I hate myself for it. But I swear, Sherry, I will spend every day for the rest of my life making it up to you, proving to you that I can be the man you deserve." Sherry felt her own tears welling up, her emotions a tangled mess of hurt, love, anger, and hope. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that they could find a way back to each other. But she was scared, scared of being hurt again, scared of being vulnerable, scared of forgiving and forgetting. "Why, Barry?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why did you do it? What was missing in our marriage that made you turn to someone else?" Barry looked up at her, his eyes red and puffy. "It wasn't about you, Sherry. It was never about you. It was about me. I was insecure, I was scared of our problems, and instead of facing them with you, I ran away. I was a coward, and I made the worst mistake of my life. But none of it means that I love you any less. You are my heart, Sherry. You always have been." Sherry's tears finally spilled over, her resolve crumbling as she saw the sincerity in Barry's words. She had been so focused on her own pain that she hadn't considered his. The fear, the insecurities, the pressures that had driven him to make such a terrible mistake. She could see now that he was truly sorry, that he was willing to do whatever it took to repair the damage he had caused. "Barry," she whispered, her voice trembling as she knelt down beside him, her hands reaching out to cup his tear-streaked face. "I'm so hurt, so angry, but I still love you. I don't know if I can forget what you did, but I want to try. I want to believe that we can heal, that we can move past this and be stronger together." Barry's eyes widened with hope, his hands trembling as he took hers in his. "We can, Sherry. I know we can. I will do everything in my power to make you happy again, to rebuild the trust we lost. Just, please, don't give up on us." Sherry nodded, her tears mingling with his as she leaned in, their foreheads touching. "I won't, Barry. I won't give up on us. But you have to promise me, no more lies, no more secrets. We face everything together from now on. We communicate, we work through our problems, and we don't let anything come between us again." "I promise, Sherry," Barry vowed, his voice filled with determination. "I'll be the husband you deserve. I'll cherish you, respect you, and never take you for granted again." With that, Sherry leaned in further, capturing his lips in a tender, heartfelt kiss. It was a kiss filled with forgiveness, with hope, with the promise of a new beginning. As they kissed, all the pain and anger slowly began to fade, replaced by the deep love they still held for each other. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling through their tears. Sherry rested her head on Barry's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his embrace, the steady beat of his heart. They had been through so much, but now, in this moment, they knew they could overcome anything as long as they had each other. "Let's start over, Barry," Sherry whispered. "Let's take this second chance and make it count." Barry nodded, his arms tightening around her. "Yes, let's start over. I'll never let you down again, Sherry. I promise." They spent the next 2 days in Johannesburg, rediscovering each other and the love that had once been the foundation of their marriage. They laughed, they talked, and they made new memories. Memories that would help them heal and move forward together. They visited the beautiful sights of the city, holding hands and stealing kisses at every opportunity, both of them feeling a renewed sense of connection and commitment. On their last night in Johannesburg, as they watched the sunset over the city, Barry turned to Sherry and took her hand in his. "I love you, Sherry," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Thank you for giving me another chance. I won't waste it." Sherry smiled, her heart swelling with love and hope. "I love you too, Barry, and I believe in us. We're going to be okay." They returned to Nigeria with a renewed sense of purpose and determination to make their marriage stronger than ever before. They knew it wouldn't be easy, that there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together, hand in hand, heart to heart.